Ladies and gentlemen, every battle that will ever be fought and won, whether in the boardroom, the classroom, the battlefield, or the soul, first begins in the mind. You can lose before you lift a finger if your mindset is wrong. But if your mind is right, if it's filled with truth, vision, and unshakable belief, you can defeat anything. Let me tell you something foundational. Purpose is more powerful than pain. When a person discovers their purpose, they stop surrendering to circumstances. Why? Because they've seen something greater. Purpose gives pain a job. It gives suffering a schedule. You don't quit when you understand that what's inside you is more valuable than what's against you. Your thoughts are not harmless. Your thoughts are architects. They are designing the blueprint of your destiny every single day. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. If you think small, you will live small. If you think defeated, you will walk like a victim, even when victory is within reach. But if you renew your mind with truth, if you feed it with purpose, then you will begin to act like the conqueror you were born to be. Now hear me, your greatest enemy is not the problem. It is your perception of it. Most people aren't defeated by the obstacle. They are defeated by what they think about the obstacle. But your mind was not designed to shrink in the face of trouble. It was designed to transform it. Giants aren't killed with strength alone. They are defeated by people who refuse to believe they're too small to win. Your mindset must be trained. Just like muscles are built in the gym, the mind is strengthened in trials. Struggle is not your enemy. It is your professor. Trials are not punishment. They are preparation. Stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this preparing me for? But listen, discipline is the engine of a powerful mindset. You must discipline your mind to respond with principles, not emotions. Emotion may feel good in the moment, but only discipline delivers destiny. Do not let temporary feelings sabotage permanent purpose. Purpose is the foundation of all true power. When an individual understands their purpose, they gain access to a level of strength that is not dependent on circumstances, motivation, or even external support. Purpose is what roots a person when the winds of uncertainty blow. It is the compass that gives direction in the middle of confusion. Power, in its purest form, does not begin with ability. It begins with identity. It is not about what you can do, but why you were created to do it. When you are clear about your why, the how becomes possible. That is why purpose must come before power. If you seek power without understanding purpose, you risk becoming dangerous to yourself and to others. But when power flows from purpose, it becomes transformative. Purpose answers the most fundamental questions of life. Who am I? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? When a person can answer these questions, they are no longer wandering. They are not guessing their way through life. They begin to walk with intentionality, and intentional living is the breeding ground for a resilient, unstoppable mindset. Without purpose we drift, with purpose we drive. Purpose gives weight to your presence and substance to your steps. It brings meaning to your suffering and direction to your decisions. It teaches you that you're not just existing, you're assigned. When a person discovers their purpose, their life gains clarity. They stop competing with others. They stop comparing their journey to someone else's. Why? Because they realize they were designed for a specific role in the earth. That realization kills insecurity at the root. You no longer have to prove yourself when you know you were chosen for something. You no longer fear failure because you understand that setbacks are often disguised lessons that shape you for your assignment. Purpose provides the internal fortitude to keep going when everything else says quit. It silences doubt with direction. It replaces anxiety with assurance. It is not just motivation. It is meaning, and meaning is what keeps people alive in the middle of hardship. Think of it like this. A seed doesn't need motivation to grow. It needs the right environment and the right process. In the same way, when purpose is planted in your heart, it naturally begins to produce power. Power to rise above circumstances, power to stand in confidence, power to move when others are stuck, This is the kind of power that sustains great leaders, visionaries, and change makers. It is not always loud. It does not always feel exciting, but it is enduring. It remains when the applause stops. It keeps you grounded when success tempts you to drift. That kind of power only comes from purpose. Too many people are chasing influence, achievement, and recognition without ever taking the time to ask, what was I born for? And that is the tragedy of modern ambition. It often runs ahead of purpose. And when ambition runs ahead of purpose, burnout is inevitable. But when you lead with purpose, power follows. True power is not measured by titles or resources. It's measured by the clarity of your mission and the consistency of your obedience to it. Purpose doesn't always make you popular, but it always makes you powerful. When you truly understand your purpose, you stop reacting to life and start responding with wisdom. You don't allow other people's confusion to redirect your calling. You don't allow delays to redefine your destiny. You don't allow detours to make you doubt your design. Instead, you stay the course, you stay planted, you keep showing up because you are no longer moving on emotion. You are anchored by revelation. Purpose gives you that revelation. It shows you that everything you've been through was not random. It was part of the preparation. Thoughts are not passive. They are active, powerful, and creative. Every action begins with a thought, and every thought is like a seed planted in the soil of the mind. What you think, you become. What you dwell on, you begin to desire. What you believe, you begin to build. Your life right now is the result of the thoughts you've allowed to dominate your mind over time. Whether those thoughts were positive or negative, intentional or unintentional, they created a mental environment that shaped your decisions, your habits, and ultimately your identity. This is why changing your life begins with changing your thoughts. You cannot defeat life's battles with a defeated mind, and you cannot win outwardly if you are losing the war inwardly. There is a principle at work in every human being. Your internal world will always manifest in your external world. People try to change their circumstances without first changing their thinking. They work on changing behavior without addressing the belief that produces that behavior. But behavior is the fruit, belief is the root. If the root is toxic, the fruit will be too. You cannot think thoughts of limitation and expect a life of freedom. You cannot think thoughts of fear and expect to walk in courage. Every thought is like a program, and your mind is the operating system. If the code you're running is faulty, your life will crash in the areas where that faulty thinking controls the outcome. The human mind is a factory. It is always producing something. If you feed it doubt, it will manufacture hesitation. If you feed it fear, it will produce paralysis. But if you feed it truth, it will generate confidence. If you feed it purpose, it will develop focus. That is why your mental diet is as important as your physical one. What you listen to, what you read, what you say to yourself in silence, all of these things determine the health of your mindset. And a healthy mindset is a strategic mindset. It does not get tossed around by every difficulty. It does not submit to insecurity. It recognizes that thoughts are not just passing ideas. They are the framework of your future. People often underestimate the influence of their thinking patterns. They say things like, "That's just how I am," or "That's just the way I see things," and not realizing that the way they see things is exactly why they keep experiencing the same cycles. If your thoughts are filled with limitation, you will build barriers in places where there were no obstacles. If your thoughts are filled with doubt, you will talk yourself out of opportunities before they ever have the chance to grow. But when your mind is aligned with vision, faith, and principle, you begin to walk with a confidence that doesn't come from arrogance, but from clarity. You do not need to wait for your situation to change in order to change your mind. Your mindset can shift right now in the middle of the storm. When you begin to take control of your thoughts, you begin to take control of your future. You start to understand that the most valuable real estate in the world is not land or property. It is your mind. Whoever or whatever controls your thoughts controls your destiny. That's why you must guard your mind the way a soldier guards a treasure. You don't entertain every idea. You don't give space to every suggestion. You filter what comes in because you understand the cost of mental clutter. It is also important to recognize that your current mindset is the result of repeated exposure. If you've constantly been surrounded by negativity, doubt, or fear, your thinking has been conditioned by that environment. But conditioning can be reversed. New thoughts, when repeated and reinforced, can replace old ones. And those new thoughts begin to build a new mindset. A mindset that sees solutions instead of problems, opportunities instead of limitations, growth instead of stagnation. When this shift happens, the world doesn't have to change for you to change. You begin to bring change into the world because your mind is already transformed. Faith is the key that unlocks the hidden potential lying dormant within every person. It is not mere hope or wishful thinking. It is a deep conviction that what is unseen is more real than what is seen. Faith is the bridge between who you are and who you are destined to become. It is the internal engine that powers purpose, vision, and resilience. Every human being carries within them gifts, talents, and capacities that the world has never seen. But those abilities do not come alive automatically. They require activation, and faith is the activator. Without faith, potential remains potential. It sits idle, waiting for belief to release it. A person can have greatness locked inside, but if they do not believe they are capable, they will live as if they are ordinary. The limit is never in the potential, it is always in the belief system. Faith changes how a person sees themselves. It reshapes self-perception. Where doubt says, I can't, faith says, I was created for this. Where fear says, what if I fail? Faith says, what if I succeed beyond imagination? Faith is not blind. It is visionary. It sees what could be even when it is not yet visible. It is the eye of the Spirit that allows a person to walk confidently into the unknown. When you operate by faith, you are no longer confined to what your senses can perceive. You are no longer controlled by your past experiences or present limitations. You begin to function from a deeper place, a place of conviction, of knowing, of certainty that what was placed inside you is more powerful than anything that could come against you. Every individual has the capacity to do more than they currently see. The problem is not ability, it is activation. Faith is what moves a person from passivity to action. It is what makes you step out even when you don't have all the answers. It is what makes you try again after failure. It is what makes you speak when silence feels safer. Faith does not eliminate fear, but it overrides it. It does not guarantee comfort, but it guarantees growth. And growth is what leads to the fulfillment of potential. Faith makes you reach when reason tells you to retreat. It makes you hope when history tells you it's too late. It makes you persist when everything in you says give up. One of the greatest tragedies is buried potential. So many go to the grave never having tapped into what was already inside them. They lived limited by fear, by opinions, by circumstances, never realizing that all they needed was to believe that more was possible. Faith opens doors, not because the door wasn't there before, but because belief gives you the boldness to knock. And once you knock, something begins to shift. Not just outside, but inside, faith stretches you. It enlarges your capacity. It demands that you become more than what you've been. Faith is also a discipline. It is not a one-time decision, it is a lifestyle. You must choose to believe every day, especially when what you see contradicts what you believe. You must guard your faith the way you guard your mind, because doubt will try to invade in subtle ways. It will dress itself in logic, in caution, in experience. But faith is not the absence of logic, it is the mastery of it. It knows when to go beyond what makes sense in order to lay hold of what has eternal significance. It sees the invisible and dares to call it reality. When faith becomes your lens, the impossible becomes negotiable. You start seeing possibilities where others see dead ends. You start finding strength in weakness. You start finding lessons in loss, because faith teaches you that nothing is ever wasted and no obstacle is final unless you accept it as final. Potential without faith is like a locked vault with no key. But the moment you begin to believe, you step into alignment with what was always in you, waiting to be released. Trials are not punishments, they are processes. Every difficulty that comes into your life carries within it the potential to develop something in you that comfort never could. While most people run from struggle, those who understand purpose see trials as training grounds. They are not random interruptions. They are intentional opportunities for growth. You cannot develop resilience in an environment of ease. You cannot learn endurance without resistance. Challenges are the instruments that life uses to sharpen your mind, shape your character, and reveal your strength. What you become in adversity is far more important than what you go through. Trials introduce you to parts of yourself that success will never show you. They dig deep into your core and pull out grit, creativity, and conviction. A mindset that can defeat anything does not come from a life that has never faced anything. It is forged in fire. It is tested in the wilderness. It is refined in seasons of delay, disappointment, and even failure. If you only see trials as enemies, you will miss the gifts they come to bring. But when you embrace them as teachers, you begin to extract the wisdom they contain. Every problem is a lesson in disguise. Every storm carries a message, and those who are willing to sit in the discomfort long enough will come out with insights that cannot be learned from books or lectures. Life teaches most effectively through experience, and trials are its most intense classroom. There is something about pressure that reveals the truth. It shows you what's really inside you. Anyone can claim strength when things are easy, but real strength is exposed when everything familiar is taken away, when resources run low, when people walk away, when doors close unexpectedly. In those moments, the quality of your mindset is revealed. Do you panic or do you pivot? Do you shrink or do you stand? Do you give up or do you grow up? These are the decisions that trials force you to make, and how you respond determines who you become. The greatest leaders, the most impactful voices, the strongest characters were all shaped through adversity. There is a purpose behind every pain. It may not always be obvious at first, and it may take time to fully understand, but nothing in life is wasted when you live with awareness. Trials humble you. They strip away ego. They teach you dependence. They make you more empathetic. They give you a deeper perspective and a wider capacity to lead, love, and lift others. People who have never suffered deeply often lack depth. But those who have been through something, who have cried, failed, and still decided to rise, they carry a different kind of authority. It is not just intellectual, it is experiential. They speak from the fire, and their words carry weight. Your mindset is not built by what you say to yourself when everything is going well. It is built by what you say when nothing seems to be working, when you're tired, but you decide to keep showing up. When you feel like quitting, but something inside tells you there's more. When you're uncertain, but you choose faith anyway. These moments accumulate. They stack up. And over time, they form the foundation of an unshakable mentality. A mindset that is not moved by setbacks because it has learned to see setbacks as setups. A mindset that is not discouraged by delay because it understands that delay is not denial. It is development. Resilience is not inherited, it is trained, it is cultivated through repetition. Every time you choose to keep going, you become stronger. Every time you choose to learn instead of complain, you become wiser. Every time you embrace the process instead of resenting it, you expand your capacity to carry purpose. Trials have a way of removing distractions. They focus you. They clarify your values. They help you discern what matters and what doesn't. They strip away the unnecessary so that what remains is solid, grounded, and unshakable. Discipline is the foundation upon which a powerful mindset is built. Without discipline, even the most inspired ideas and noble intentions fall apart under the weight of inconsistency. Emotion is temporary, fleeting, and often unreliable. It changes with the weather, with moods, with circumstances. But discipline is stable, it is deliberate. It is the decision to act according to principle, not according to feeling. The greatest victories in life are not achieved by those who feel their way through, but by those who discipline their way through. Discipline doesn't wait for motivation. It creates momentum through consistent action, even when motivation is absent. The mind, like a muscle, must be trained. It must be instructed on how to think, how to respond, and how to endure. Without discipline, the mind will default to comfort. It will choose ease over excellence, safety over strength, and familiarity over growth. But with discipline, the mind is taught to stay focused even when distractions are tempting, to keep showing up even when progress is slow, and to hold on to vision even when the results are not immediate. Discipline gives structure to thought. It transforms inspiration into action and action into impact. It is what separates those who dream from those who do. There will always be moments when emotion tempts you to compromise. The urge to quit, the pull to complain, the desire to delay, these are emotional impulses that come to all people, but a disciplined mind does not give in to impulse. It is governed by purpose. It remembers the goal when the journey gets tough. It recalls the reason when the road gets rough. Discipline is the internal governor that keeps your mind aligned with your mission. It teaches you that how you feel in the moment is not as important as what you are committed to becoming. People who live by emotion tend to be inconsistent. They rise and fall with every wave of feeling. But people who are led by discipline are stable. They make decisions from a place of clarity, not chaos. They are not swayed by every challenge or criticism. They move with intention. They choose their responses, and in choosing their responses, they shape their outcomes. A strong mindset cannot exist without disciplined thinking. You cannot allow every fear, every doubt, every distraction to run freely through your mind and expect to walk in strength. Discipline means setting boundaries, mental, emotional, and behavioral, that protect your purpose. Discipline also teaches delayed gratification. It teaches the mind to resist short-term pleasure for the sake of long-term reward. It is easy to choose what feels good now. It is harder to choose what will feel right later. But the disciplined person is able to see beyond the moment. They recognize that the pain of discipline is far less costly than the pain of regret. They are willing to sacrifice today's comfort for tomorrow's excellence. This mindset does not come automatically. It must be cultivated through daily choices, consistent effort, and a commitment to personal standards that are not negotiable. You cannot wait for ideal conditions to practice discipline. If you only train your mind when it's easy, it won't stand when it's hard. Discipline is built in the mundane, the routine, the ordinary moments when no one is watching. It's in the choice to get up early, to stay committed, to keep your word. It's in the repetition of good habits even when progress is slow. It's in the decision to control your thoughts before your thoughts control you. This is where mental strength is born, not in emotional highs, but in disciplined routines. Discipline also brings freedom. While emotion often leads to chaos, discipline leads to clarity. It creates structure, and structure creates peace. When your mind is disciplined, you are no longer at the mercy of every external influence. You become the architect of your day, the steward of your energy, the leader of your own life. You stop reacting to life and start responding with wisdom, because your mind is no longer driven by how you feel, but by who you are becoming. Vision is the lens through which a powerful mind sees the future, and it is the fuel that sustains the journey through difficulty, delay, and distraction. Without vision, the mind wanders. It becomes reactive, influenced by the noise of the moment and pulled in every direction by whatever feels urgent. But when a person has vision, their mind becomes focused, intentional, and strategic. Vision gives direction to desire. It takes raw energy and channels it toward meaningful outcomes. It shapes decisions, disciplines the imagination, and defines what is worth pursuing and what is not. A person without vision may work hard but have no direction. A person with vision may face resistance but never loses clarity about where they are going. Vision allows you to live beyond the limitations of your current circumstances. It lets you see what doesn't exist yet as if it already does. It lifts your perspective above your problems and places your attention on possibilities. This is not fantasy. It is the ability to live from the future backward. You begin to make decisions today based on where you see yourself tomorrow. You start organizing your time, your relationships, and your habits around a clear picture of the life you are building. Vision makes sacrifice meaningful because it shows you what that sacrifice is working toward. Without vision, sacrifice feels like loss, but with vision it becomes investment. A powerful mindset is always connected to a clear vision. When you know where you're going, temporary setbacks no longer define you. You are able to push through pain, endure pressure, and ignore distractions because your eyes are fixed on a higher purpose. Vision gives you something to hold on to when everything else is shaking. It becomes your internal anchor in the middle of chaos. It becomes the internal compass when external direction is missing. When vision governs the mind, fear begins to lose its grip, because fear thrives in uncertainty and vision brings clarity. Every great achievement begins as a vision in someone's mind. It starts as an idea, a picture, a dream of what could be. But the difference between a daydreamer and a visionary is discipline and commitment. Visionaries do not just see, they build. They align their lives with what they see in their spirit. They let vision shape their words, their friendships, their schedule, and their thinking patterns. They don't waste mental energy on what doesn't serve the vision. They understand that every thought, every decision, every belief is either moving them closer to that vision or pulling them further away from it. A strong mind protects vision like a precious seed. It does not expose it to environments that would destroy it. It does not allow fear or negativity to choke it. It feeds that vision with affirming thoughts, empowering beliefs, and strategic action. Vision is not sustained by hype, it is sustained by discipline. You must remind yourself daily of what you see, especially when reality looks different. You must write it down, speak it out, plan around it, and act as if it were already true. This trains your mind to stay aligned with the future you are building, even when your present looks like the opposite. Vision also brings stability to your identity. When you have a vision for your life, you no longer need external validation to feel significant. You are no longer swayed by public opinion because you are internally governed by purpose. Your confidence no longer comes from applause, it comes from alignment. You are not performing for approval, you are pursuing destiny. Vision gives your mind something bigger than the moment to focus on, and that perspective changes everything. It helps you overcome small thinking, it lifts you above petty distractions, it makes you immune to temporary noise because your mind is fixed on a permanent assignment. Vision does not eliminate difficulty, but it transforms how difficulty is experienced. Challenges become necessary steps, not insurmountable barriers. Delays become seasons of preparation, not signs of failure. Vision strengthens the mind by expanding its capacity to endure what others avoid. It creates mental resilience not by removing the need to struggle, but by giving the struggle meaning. Vision empowers you to lead yourself with clarity, to think beyond your limits, and to cultivate a mind that refuses to settle for anything less than the fulfillment of its calling. A mindset that can defeat anything is not inherited, accidental, or circumstantial. It is intentionally developed, consistently disciplined, and relentlessly aligned with vision. It is shaped by the thoughts we cultivate, the faith we activate, the trials we endure, the discipline we uphold, and the clarity of the vision we pursue. Such a mindset is not moved by emotion, fear, or failure. It is forged through a commitment to growth, sharpened by adversity, and sustained by unwavering purpose. When you train your mind to think with intention, believe with conviction, endure with strength, act with discipline, and see with vision, you become unstoppable. Not because life gets easier, but because you become stronger. The greatest battle is not outside of you, it is within. And once your mind is renewed, aligned, and equipped, there is nothing, no obstacle, no setback, no opposition, that can stand against the power of a mind that knows where it's going, knows what it carries, and refuses to be defeated.